Everything is so lush and green and just amazing. Temperatures are great, but I think one of the most exciting things about it is all the youngsters that are out in the bush. Let's take a little bit of a look and see what we're seeing this morning with all the babies out and about. Good morning everyone, welcome back to a beautiful day on Shamwari Private Game Reserve. Undoubtedly this is my favorite time of the year. Everything is so lush and green and just amazing. Temperatures are great, but I think one of the most exciting things about it is all the youngsters that are out in the bush. Let's take a little bit of a look and see what we're seeing this morning with all the babies out and about. Have a look at this beautiful little guy over here. He's so tiny, he's only a few days old. Little baby zebra foals are one of the cutest little animals for me. They can be incredibly playful at times, and suddenly they'll dart off and run in circles and bucking and you know, putting all their skills to the test, I suppose. And that's part of it. Play is important for teaching animals skills. It develops muscles. It starts building their abilities later on in life. You can see that little guy, how long his legs are. So when a little baby zebra is standing in the group of a herd of zebra, you can't actually see the little baby zebra underneath the tummies of the adults, same height. So it really just blends in and camouflages super well into the whole herd. And after a gestation period of quite long for a zebra, 365 days a year, this little guy is born. Absolutely beautiful. So also great to see is a whole little troop of little goslings over there, little baby Egyptian geese. I think this is probably one of their first outings to the water. Straight after they're born, the parents walk with them to water, and I think one of the most characteristic goose or duck species in South Africa, with pretty much stopping traffic in towns and cities as these guys cross the roads. A very characteristic thing. So the Egyptian goose has quite a varied nesting site. Sometimes they build their own nest, sometimes they take over other disused nests, things like owl nests or hammerkorp nests. They'll nest on top of that, sometimes very high up in trees, even on the edges of cliffs. One of the first challenges in life that those little goslings are going to face is having to leave the nest. And it's not once they can fly, it's almost immediately after hatching. The female will lay a clutch of eggs, up to about 22 eggs sometimes, so quite a large clutch of eggs. And within the first few minutes of hatching, those little youngsters will be encouraged by the adults, a lot of vocalization for them to actually leave the nest. Some of those nests can be 50, 60 meters off of the ground, and those little goslings need to jump out of that nest and hit the ground, and in so doing sometimes will be stunned to the point where they actually lose their senses for a little bit. But after a few minutes they'll gain their senses again, and then it's the long march to water. Sometimes over 1 kilometer that those little guys will need to march in single file all the way through to water. That is where they are the safest. They're able to maneuver in between the water reeds, grasses, sedges, even dive underwater to get away from predators. And it is quite a challenge because they're high up on the list of tasty morsels for predators. Everything from barbel, large barbel and fish will eat these guys, all the way through to aerial predators. Some of your eagle species and buzzards and that will be preying on those guys. Not an easy life. So we've just driven down into one of the dry river lines at the moment, and there's a spotted eagle owl, but with a chick over there. What I want to look carefully for is if there's another one, but you can see how well camouflaged that little baby is. He's already a few weeks old, but you can still see he's still all fluffy and covered in down feathers. But if you look at his mottling and you look at the branch that he's sitting on with that lichen, just how well camouflaged he is, absolutely amazing. Every now and again you see those eyes open up just a little bit wider. We can see the coloring on the inside. So often with these eagle owls is people will see birds on the ground and go and pick them up and take them to a rehabilitation center because they think it fell out of the nest. But with your eagle owls, this is the common nesting spot for them, is on the ground. up against the edges of trees or on banks in little crevices where the roots have been growing, and they make these little sheltered areas, and that's it. That's where the nest is. It's camouflaged, it's on the ground, and the parents are incubated there. With a lot of your bigger bird species, and often most of your bird species, there's a lot of involvement by both parents, the male and the female. These guys will form a monogamous pair bond, and both will be responsible for hunting and feeding the chicks. So there's the other adult. I just caught a little bit of movement out the side of my eye over there. So as the parents have been exposed to us doing game drives and that over years and years and years, they've so relaxed with us. We can sit a few meters away from them and they don't even blink an eye. And that behavior gets transferred on through each generation. And it's one of the things that we try and perpetuate is positive encounters. You know, what encounters can you have in nature where you can go and observe and leave without interfering with behavior, or changing the behavior or making the animal scared in any way? You know, then that's a positive encounter. When you leave, you haven't had a negative impact on that animal, and so the behavior gets passed on from parent to youngsters. Right, let's carry on with our baby expedition. This really is the day to showcase babies for you guys. Have a look at this. Not even 100 meters from those owls, and have a look at this little baby tortoise. I'm not going to go and pick it up, but follow me. Just upstream from where the owls are nesting, there's this little guy sheltering on the side of the bank in a little crevice over here. That's the little leopard tortoise, and you can see if I put my fist there next to him, he's actually smaller than my fist. These guys get massive. They get to probably a good 20-25 kilograms, really big and heavy. So this guy is very tiny. At this stage over here, he will still be quite a good meal for a number of predators like a hyena, even a lion at that size. Some of your raptors will even try and pick them up and drop them to break them open. So they're quite vulnerable when they're small like this, so they rely heavily on camouflage. And you can see all those beautiful markings which give them their name of leopard tortoise, perfectly blended into this area here. So as youngsters, they need to remain hidden and well camouflaged to avoid predators. That's exactly what this guy is doing. So I think there can be no baby episode without baby giraffe. There's nothing cuter than a baby giraffe. Have a look at this. So still quite young. Yeah, a couple of weeks, a couple of months old for this little group over here, some varied ages. And very often and typical what we find with giraffe is these little nursery herds forming where the youngsters will stay together just for added security and safety, companionship. The adults can then feed, keep a lookout for danger, and then come back to the youngsters, and the mothers will allow them to suckle a few times throughout the day. And you can see the varied size between the youngsters, so a couple of weeks difference between them, but quite happy to stay in the nursery herd. So we're just absolutely surrounded by babies at the moment. It's beautiful. So we've got giraffe over here. Up on the hill over there, there's a little group of impala. I can see just sticking out next to the back of one of the females over there. There's a tiny little baby, and undoubtedly one of my favorites, baby impala. I'm going to move around and let's see if we can get a good close-up of them. All of these impala are staring in one direction, and as we were saying earlier with alarm calls and that type of stuff, this typical behavior is what we look out for as an indication there could be a potential predator. Anything from a jackal, a serval, a caracal, all the way up to a lion. Sometimes it can be another animal moving through the grass that they're just waiting to identify first. You can see there might be a warthog in the grass over there. So as we were looking at all of the impala staring off in one direction, what's popped out just in those bushes over there is a little black-backed jackal. Not a major threat to the impala, they've seen it already, and there he goes trotting off to the side over there. So that would have been the species that got their attention, and all eyes and ears focused on that, trying to figure out, is it a threat to them. Now this little baby over here is a potential prey item for those jackal. Very often what we'll see with jackal is them taking out during the lambing season newborn impala, newborn springbok, newborn red hartebeest. So that's something they'll be really vigilant for. Now in this little group over here, which is quite small, it looks like maybe only about 5 or 6 females, and it can be sometimes over 100 females in one breeding herd, but there's only one youngster. So that means either there's a few more to be born, or unfortunately there's been quite a high predation rate and there's only one left. It's another beautiful sight, and quite a nice large herd of red hartebeest, but again all of the babies within the herd grouping together in the little nursery herd. And this family that these guys belong to, the red hartebeest, the blesbok, black wildebeest, blue wildebeest, all of those guys in the same family, so cousins pretty much, but all of the youngsters look almost identical, very common characteristics. So again, common anti-predator behavior for these guys is lambing season. As many youngsters get born at the same time as possible, and then the youngsters rely on camouflage and lying still out in the open areas to avoid predation. Something like a lioness and a leopard, animals that need to hunt, they generally have very short gestation periods. It would be very difficult for a heavily laden predator to be chasing after prey species that are very fast. They wouldn't be able to do it, and there's a possibility of injury. So they have very underdeveloped youngsters and a short gestation period. Where these guys, who are the prey species, they need to be as fast as possible, be able to get away from the predators, and the youngsters need to be as developed as possible. So their gestation period is much longer in general. A lot of your antelope species generally 6 months and above. You know, like up to like the zebra that we saw, a year gestation period, and that allows those youngsters to pretty much hit the ground and within a few minutes be standing, and within an hour they can keep up with the herd and move, and in that way avoid predation. So precocial and altricial youngsters. The precocial ones being these guys over here, being able to move as quickly as possible, and the altricial being pretty much helpless and defenseless for the first few weeks of their life and reliant on the mother to keep them alive. So the biggest predator that we find with red hartebeest on Shamwari is lion and cheetah. In this environment, you can see wide open spaces, so obviously ideal for cheetah, but surprisingly enough, the lions are also quite high up on the list for taking out young red hartebeest. Let's see what other babies we can add to the list. A great and happy way to end off is with the little baby rhino. How beautiful is that? Never far from the protection of mom. So that little guy's about 30 to 40 kilograms at birth when he's born. White rhinos have a gestation period of about 16 months. And that little youngster will suckle for about 2 years. For the first few months it's quite regular and a fair portion of his diet, and as he starts getting weaned it'll be less and less, to the point where he's about 2 years old, and after much whining and nagging and vocalization and begging his mom, he probably won't get his way. but we'll try for as long as possible to cycle. So it's absolutely amazing to see females being successful with youngsters and raising them up. We've obviously the last number of years faced such a huge problem in South Africa, Southern Africa and the world with rhino poaching, so any youngsters are an absolute blessing. Well, there you go guys, I hope you enjoyed the fun and exciting session this morning out looking at a couple of the youngsters. Everything is just happy, it's beautiful, it's amazing out here. Glad you could join us. So stay safe until next time, and hopefully we'll see you one day soon. Be safe.